Hey guys, thank you for tuning in, and today I'm going to talk about how I managed to save few of my plants. There are 4 plants in total and they're from different plant families, so we'll see what mistakes were made and how we recovered them. So let's begin. The first plant that I'm going to talk about, please excuse the size and shape of these plants or the look of these plants because they are just coming back to life. So the first plant is going to be this Syngonium, or the arrowhead plant, also known as the butterfly Syngonium. This is the regular variety, and you can see how it is coming back from like the cut portion right here. So the mistake that I had made with this plant was I had kept it first of all in a shade planter, like the planters you see, those rectangular window planters, and it had many other plants in it. So like 3 other plants in it, and this was the 4th plant. And then another mistake that I had made with this plant was that planter was on a south facing window. So I had to keep that planter in the south facing window because the third mistake that I had made was I had kept plants which need different variations of sunlight in one planter. So there were plants which needed more sunlight in that planter, and there was this one which kind of needs indirect sunlight and not the direct sunlight. So what was happening with this was, first of all its leaves were going yellow, kind of bleached look, and it was not at all healthy. It had like very long trailing vines because I think it was trying to run away from the sun somehow. So it was going down the window, under the couch, somewhere trying to hide itself, and then it was producing very tiny leaves. So the change that I made was, obviously I snipped off any healthy or any good portion of the plant that was still salvageable, and I put it into water for them to root. So I will put a clip here for the propagation video that I did, and I can show you how long its roots grew, like in a month and a half. And when I had chopped off in that rectangular planter, I thought my plant was gone, like it's dead, nothing is going to happen. And I was still watering that planter because it still had those plants which needed more sun. And finally what happened was that I started seeing something like this, like these tiny shoots coming out from the dead parts which I had chopped off. So these kind of tiny shoots started popping out from the dead parts, and then I thought, oh my god, looks like it's alive. And I must tell you the timelines, like I had chopped it off back in November 2020, and the green portion that I saw on these plants, or the green growth tips that I saw on these plants, were in the month of February 2021. So I had almost given up on the plant inside the rectangular planter that I had. So immediately what I did was I dug up any left out shoots of this plant. So this was one which had given the green shoot, the very first green shoot, and then I kind of dug up and found few more still left stalks of that plant, and I planted it in a separate container, and now I keep it like in an area which gets indirect sunlight, and then it has given me so many leaves. So this was the first thing which showed some signs of life, and these 3 are the other stalks that I found out after I dug up, and I planted them in this planter. So I tend to keep it moist, not soggy. It's a very regular potting mix, and I keep it in an indirect area which gets indirect sunlight, not the direct one, because we had already suffered because of that. So that's the story of my Syngonium. Let's move to the other plant. The other plant in my list is this succulent. You can see very tiny, these light green tips are the new growth on this plant. it is supposed to grow like in this rosette shapes, but as you can see, it had completely deteriorated, lost its color, was almost dying. You can see these leaves like they almost look dead. But okay, let's talk about what wrong I did with this plant. So I'll share a picture here. These kind of ceramic pots are very tempting to put your succulents in, and they don't come with a drainage hole. I fell for that kind of temptation, and I put my this I'll find its name. I had it, I forgot. I put my succulent in that pot. I also did the same thing with this echeveria. So I put it in a planter, ceramic planter which didn't have drainage holes. I put it in that, and then the next wise thing that I did with my succulents was that I put it in an area which doesn't get direct sunlight. Yeah, don't kill me for that, but that's what I did with my plants, because they looked very cute in that area, in those cute ceramic planters. It was very cute for like 1.5 months, and after I placed it there, well, in my mind it was their place because they're looking healthy. But that's the thing with succulents, they are very, very resilient. So even with that harsh treatment, they were good, sitting in their place, being happy. But finally they had to suffer some, because I tortured them so much, right? I'm bad. So they suffered so much. You can see the kind of stalk it grew, my echeveria. It is also supposed to grow in a very closed, like a very dense kind of formation, but in the search of light it grew this tall stalk, and this almost started dying. So the color of these leaves turned like such a dark brown, almost dead. The rosette shape was gone and everything. So finally sense knocked my mind, and I moved it to a planter which has good drainage holes, and now I keep it on a south facing window. So I'm just so thankful for this plant that it has not decided to punish me by dying on me. It has rather started giving out this cute rosette formations, and it has started to live again. And same with my echeveria, I see like more dense formations up on top. In the movement, while I was moving it from the ceramic pot to this pot with the drainage holes, I kind of broke few leaves, so I have just popped them in here, and I hope that they can just grow some roots. I can see some roots. I'm really happy. So I think they can grow some roots, and I can have like more succulents. And from now onwards, I'm not going to put my succulents in a pot which doesn't have drainage holes, and I'm not going to put my succulent in a place which doesn't get direct sunlight. Next plant that I have is this Maranta prayer plant. So I know a lot of people call it finicky, but for me this plant has been very, very resilient to the kind of treatment I gave it. It was not intentional for sure. When I bought it first, I didn't know about its requirements. I thought what I read was that it comes from the continent of Africa. I don't know if that information was right or wrong, but that kind of gave me an idea that it can survive a lot of direct sunlight. That's what it will like. So what I did again, I planted it in a rectangular planter with 3 other plants, and this was getting southern facing direct sunlight from the window, which it is not supposed to get. It kind of grows under the long trees at the base of the trees in jungle, so it doesn't get that much light because all the tall trees are kind of filtering all the sunlight for them, so they get indirect sunlight. That's where they thrive. and they thrive in humid conditions. So when I had planted it in that pot and it was getting like direct sunlight, all its leaves were bleaching out. I had dead portions, and dead portions like this, and like anything that new that came out was like this tiny. So that's what was happening with this plant. So I researched. I did something very late. I researched and I found it needs indirect sunlight, not direct one, and it needs humid conditions. So again, I dug it up from that planter, whatever I could salvage, I put it in this pot. It's a self-watering pot. I put it in here, and then I try to keep it moist, not soggy, and I have placed it in a place which gets indirect sunlight. I'll also be sharing a clip where I cut a few nodes, leaf nodes, where like 2 or 3 leaves were coming out. I cut that portion, I popped them in water. They have also grown roots. There are 2 cuttings, and this was like almost dead 3 cuttings that I put in here. And this plant has also not given up on me. It is in fact giving out new leaves for me now, so I think it is happy with me now that I have started to take care of it as I should have done like way before. So yeah, so this is how I tend to save this. So once my Maranta cuttings have grown roots, I'll pop them in here to make it like more bushy, and they can stay happy together in this pot and facing indirect sunlight. Another plant that I want to talk about is this one, the one that you see. This is my money tree. So how I managed to save this plant, this came with like 5 stalks of plant, and now it's just 2 stalks remaining. I'll give you a closer view of this. Now it just have 2 stalks remaining. The only change I did with this plant, I promise I wasn't torturing this plant. I was taking very good care of this plant. What I changed in my behavior to make this plant survive is I stopped taking care of it. Yeah, that's contradictory, but that's what I did. I stopped taking care of it. So I was kind of pampering it a lot, giving water, giving fertilizer, giving everything that this plant would need, and I promise I didn't had it in a rectangular planter with 5 other plants, and I hadn't put it in a south facing window, or rather I hadn't put it in a planter which didn't have drainage holes. I had it in this planter ever since it came to my care. I moved it to this 8-inch pot there. It had like 5 stalks like intertwined between each other. I think that's how they sell it, but it started dropping leaves like anything. It had leaves all around. The stalks were dying. They were kind of getting mushy and going away. So I researched and I found that all the care that I was taking for this plant and all the things I was doing for this plant, it doesn't need it. So the only thing that I changed, which kept at least 2 stalks alive because 3 were gone because of my overcare of this plant, the change that I did was I stopped watering it. I stopped watering it for a month. So the main thing that you need to do with your money tree is give it dry soil breaks between watering, and when you water you need to soak your plant completely, drench the soil, make the water fall out, drain out from the pot. Like that's how you need to water it, and then just keep it and forget it and just let it dry on its own. So it needs to have those dry phases in between watering to survive. That's the only change I did with this plant. I stopped kind of taking care of it. I just watered it like once in a month in winters. I'll see what I'll do in summers, how it fares, but right now in winters this is how it is surviving. Another wrong thing that I did with this plant is you can see few spots on the leaves. That is because when I watered it, I watered cold with cold water, like whatever was coming from the tap, I just watered it with it. That developed these yellow spots on the leaves. So I again researched, because I didn't want to be late this time. I researched and I found that's what I have been doing. So I stopped doing that. Now I water it with regular room temperature water, and this how this has been doing. So that was the video, guys. Hope you liked it. Don't kill me for watering my plants. I was completely unaware and I just assumed a few things. So my advice to you would be, now I don't do that. I research. If I impulsively buy a plant, I research about it when I come home, and if I'm planning to buy a plant, I research it beforehand, before coming, and then getting the plant from the nursery. I do all my research even before getting the plant. So now I think I'm not making all those mistakes. My plants are happy with me. So yeah, that was the video, guys. Hope you liked it. If you did, then please hit the like button, and also comment down below if you had any plant survival stories. And also consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't done so already, and share it with your friends if you liked the video. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.